session. This area here is where Shaikan 1 and the Shaikan 3 well are. Currently we're moving the rig from Bajil 1 to, in fact it's completely moved now to Shaikan 2. We're currently rigging up. It's about 60% complete, so we expect to spud the Shaikan number 2 well sometime in early December. And then this blue line here is where the seismic footprint. So we've managed to get some data over the Hunt area. And further to north, this is what's called the Atrush prospect. This is a prospect the Marathon have just farmed into, and that's currently drilling. So we actually will have a very good data set over Shaikan, which actually extends beyond the current boundary. And up here is Sheikh Adi. Just to talk about the oil quality as well. There are so many different productive horizons that we encountered. We've had everything from 18-degree API oil all the way up to 55. And that will mean that there'll have to be most probably a different set of solutions for developing this oil depending on which geological horizon we want to produce from. So this is just a cross-section of the Shaikan 1 well, which shows you in sort of cartoon fashion the route that we took. Right next to it, the Shaikan number 3 well. We actually had to stop drilling at 2,950 meters. The reason for that was you encountered a very high pressure zone which exceeded the tolerance of the well design. It had a lot of oil and gas flowing into the well bore. It took us 2 or 3 days to actually get that under control. And then we essentially plugged the well at that point. So when we go, Shaikan 2 will be drilled somewhere over here on the cross section. So when we go back and drill the number 2 well, we're actually intending to go all the way down into the Triassic, and potentially all the way down to the Permian. The significance of that is that I talked about the oil in place range, the 1.9 to 7.4 billion barrels of oil. DGA assessed that below this depth there was the potential for 1 to 5 billion barrels of additional resource, and that's just oil, and potentially up to 14 TCF of gas. So there's clearly, when we drill the number 2 well, it's not only an appraisal well, it's clearly an exploration well as well. In terms of test rates, 1 to 5 on here. It's where these blue squares are on this diagram. Initially, all 5 zones that we tested, cumulative rates were over 20,000 barrels of oil per day. We went back in the summer and we tested 2 of these horizons, this bottom one here. When we originally tested, it was more a calculated rate than actual oil that we recovered through the test string. So we went back and we got 4,650, which compared to our original 5,000 estimate. So clearly our estimates were pretty good. And then we came back up to this number 2 zone. Originally we only had this 128 barrels per day. We then retested that, we got 1,250 barrels of oil per day. And then we put in a semi-submersible pump and tested at 2,250 barrels of oil per day. So clearly, good news. We thought we could get a lot more out of these horizons. In fact, we still think these numbers haven't quite got to the point of optimal rates. And then we've completed the very first test zone for production into the facilities, the test facilities that we've built. Now, one of the issues that we have is really trying to find out exactly where the water level is in the Shaikan structure. We never encountered any water when we drilled the first well. And where the water level is will have a very significant impact on total resource or reserve potential. If you imagine an upside down bowl, if the water's at the bottom, and there's clearly a lot of space for oil to go into that bowl, if the water's further up, then there's a smaller space for the oil. So where the water level is will determine that, one of the factors that will determine the total volume of oil in the structure. So we've got some information from different sources. One is the actual, we've plotted with with depth, the pressures, one in the Jurassic section of the Shaikan #1 well. We then have this water well, Jabal Khan well, it's about 15 to 20 kilometres away. That was drilled quite a number of years ago. And then the more recent Bajil #1 well, as you can see, it's plotted right on this water gradient. And at the point where oil and water meet, you have the same pressure. And that tells us that the depth of the hypothesized oil-water contact is at 2,230 meters. And that, if it turns out to be the case, is very significant. And if I just run through these, basically this is our internal interpretation of the Shaikan structure, which is over here. This here is the Shaikani structure, and this here is the Berbahar structure. And as you can see, Berbahar is clearly a very significant feature. So on the P50 case that DGA did, that's the 4.2 billion barrels of oil in place. They're assuming that there's 1,169 meters at the oil-water contact point. Now, just to give you a sort of rough feel of how we see the size of these structures in comparison to each other. That's Shaikan. I've sort of talked about the resource numbers. Shaikani we see as being about half the size of Shaikan, and then we have Berbahar, which you see as being 1.5 times the size of Shaikan. So clearly, this exploration prospect and indeed Berbahar are very significant. We go on to the P10 case. That's where DGA assessed 1,500 meters true vertical depth subsea. So we have the 7.4 billion barrels in the Shaikan structure, and that doesn't include the potential additional resource space below 2,950 meters. So you could add on, somewhere in the region, most probably in that case, up to 5 billion barrels. And then at 2,230 meters, this is what's regarded as the P1 case for DGA. So this structure is 13 billion barrels plus the 5 in the deeper zone, and Shaikani potentially up to half the size of Shaikan, and then Berbahar 1.5 times the size of Shaikan. And I haven't talked about Akrabajil yet. This is just another map, sort of satellite photograph of the Shaikan structure. Clearly a very large structure, as you can see here, 10 kilometers. This whole structure in terms of length, we estimate, depending on exactly where you want to draw the line, sort of 15 to 30 kilometers long. So we're talking about 150 to 300 square kilometer structure. There are 2 wells which are not located on here. This is our pipe yard, just here. That's where we keep most of the stock and equipment that we need. I think the number 6 well will just be about here at the end of the structure, and the number 7 well will go to the northern side of Shaikan. Around here somewhere, I think, would be the location. Shaikani 4 location is built. Shaikan 2 is built, currently rigging up, as I said, 60%. And we're out to tender now for building the number 5 location. This is, and we'll have some more photographs on the next slide. This is the facility that we built. As I said, this is 20,000 barrels of oil per day into this tank. It has a potential for that. The Shaikan well, see, we built a pipeline down to the facility, and it's quite close to this road here. The facilities are actually tested and commissioned now. It was built in Canada, a company called Politan. essentially modularised units. You can't see it very well from this picture, but you'll see it better on another one. They're basically all